Friends, my name is Mark. I'm the author of the book Early Genesis, The Revealed Cosmology. I think there is a link to his Amazon page in the comment section of this video for no charge if you have Kindle Unlimited access. Creation ex nihilo. Creation from nothing is what that means in the Latin. And of course, Christians don't say absolutely nothing, but they do say that the heavens and the earth were created. They do say that in Hebrews 11, the things which are made from that which is not. And so we have this view that the universe hasn't been here forever, and it won't be here forever. It's a temporal thing. And this over the centuries, when we translated Genesis 1:1 the way we did, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the first part of verse 2 is connected to it, and the earth was formless and void. It goes on. So for centuries, this has been a cause of some derision because the Greek philosophers and certain scientists, they thought the universe was eternal and unchanging. And yet here Genesis was saying it all had a beginning. And so they used that to sort of, science discrediting faith sort of thing among the skeptics. And this was the skeptics 1,000 years ago. But in more recent times, we've came upon the Big Bang with or without a super brief period of hyperinflation in a super unbelievably small area. And suddenly, it seemed like the universe had a beginning. That Genesis 1:1 was right. There was a place, this whole stretched out universe, there was a time when it was all into infinitesimally tiny point or nothing at all. It's hard to say, but that it wasn't like all the other creation accounts. Had the other creation accounts from different cultures, the gods or God stumbled onto a pre-existing substance. There was something going out there. Could have been water, could have been tapioca pudding, turtle's back, doesn't matter. The idea that the universe was created from nothing was a uniquely Judeo-Christian concept, which seemed ridiculous for centuries. Except this last century, it seems like, wait a minute, they're the only ones that got it right. And of course, the skeptics just can't stand that. They just can't stand the idea that Scripture could have gotten something right. So I find it very convenient that when things are trending this way, all of a sudden, the scholars have announced, oh, wait a minute, maybe Genesis 1:1 doesn't say what we've thought it said for the last 20-something centuries. Maybe it's saying that there was a universe here after all, and that he created it. Let me take a brief time out here. I'm going to read to you some of these new translations for Genesis 1:1 that have just popped up in the last not that very many years. It'll be surprising to you, and see how it varies from the classical and I believe correct translation on this verse. When in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was untamed and shapeless. Or, when in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth being untamed and shapeless. These are alternative, what some claim to be valid alternative translations of Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. I am not one to say that the way a verse is being translated is always correct. The way it's open up your King James Bible, and that's the way it is. If you read my book, I point out several places where I think they've made really terrible translations, and it matters. This isn't one of them, folks. The attempts of some to change the translation of Genesis 1:1, to me, the timing is all too convenient. Only when there's confirmation that the creation story in Genesis, basically alone among ancient creation accounts, accurately predicts the state of the creation, that is, that it wasn't always existing. It's for a time. It's to test us. Eternity is real, this and eternal, and this place is temporal. When they change the words like that, and they say it's going to start, when in the beginning. Well, first of all, there's a Hebrew word for when. It's translated when and for and several other things. But that word isn't in the Hebrew of Genesis 1:1. So at that point, they're adding a word that isn't there in order to fudge the translation and get it the way they're saying. And if you keep reading to verse 2, they connect it. When in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void. When they translate it like that, they leave out a conjunction, and is the English conjunction we use. And there's a character in Hebrew which also stands for that conjunction, and it's there in the Hebrew text. So at the beginning of the verse, they're leaving out a word that's when, translated when, and at the end of the verse, and the start of verse 2, they're leaving off the conjunction that joins those two things together. And it doesn't, the grammar messes up when you do that in English, so the fact that they're leaving it out matters. It's really saying, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void. So it's saying something that is halfway in between what is commonly believed by many American Christians and what the revisionists are now trying to say it means, in the sense that the first day of creation did not start on verse 1. And I go into this at length in the book. Every creation day starts when God speaks. His words initiate the creation day. His words are the light of the creation days. And I go into a lot of this in the book, but the universe was created by God in the beginning. He worked on the universe during the 6 days of creation. And working on it, the word for create is used in Genesis 1:1, and it's only used 2 more times on the 5th day and on the 6th day. And that's all. It's other verbs that are used on each of the other days. So he did other things beside create. The heavens and the earth were created in verse 1. He worked on what he had created throughout the days. They were created, the cosmos was created an unspecified amount of time before the first day of Genesis 1. And it really doesn't even say first day, it says one day. There was evening and there was morning, one day. So we have, there's that to take account of. But the traditional view says that, of the young earth creationists at least, is that God created the heavens and the earth perfect. And that's not what the text says. The text, both these extremes are wrong. The skeptics who are trying to take away God as the creator of the heaven and earth, they're wrong, and they're trying to fudge the text to change things, to make it appear like after all, the Judeo-Christian account is not exceptional at all. It is exceptional. And they're trying to change the translation without just basis, as far as I can see, to make it unexceptional. After all these centuries, and only when the scientific evidence starts tipping the way in favor of the creation account of Genesis. But the young earth creationists have a problem too, because the initial conditions of the heaven and the earth are not perfect. They're not wonderful. It's not sinless, deathless perfection. It's darkness. It's a void. It's emptiness. And so, which condition has changed, by the way, once God starts putting his word into creation, it makes things better. Just like in our lives, when he puts his word into our lives, it makes things better if we heed it. So, I'd be very interested to see, as this battle rages and continues, what young earth creationists are going to do. Are they going to give up on this idea that God created the heavens and the earth, more like what the skeptics want them to do, in order to say he came upon a substance that was turbulent and void and empty and dark and not good, and when he changed it, it was perfect? Or are they going to stick with creation ex nihilo? And I hope they do that, because that's when I say creation ex nihilo, that is a shorthand term, because the Bible doesn't truly say that it's from straight up nothing. It says in Hebrews 11, he made the things that are seen from things that are not. Okay, so that is not strictly nothing, and some skeptics, they try to evade the conclusion that early Genesis is strangely right about this by saying, well, we don't know if it was nothing because we don't know what happened before the Big Bang, or if there was something there in that tiny fraction of time before the Big Bang busted up, and it's ridiculous, really. It's ridiculous. All the Bible is saying is there wasn't already a creation here that God just worked on. He created it, and then he worked on it. There nothing that is would be without him. That's what they're saying. It's not the fact that the Big Bang is saying that there was something a trillionth the size of a proton and expanded for 1/27 billionth of a second and all that. They're trying to hide. They're trying to lawyer the word creation ex nihilo and say, oh, that's not nothing. There was something there. It was unbelievably tiny and unbelievably brief. It's ridiculous. They're just trying to hide from the fact that the Bible is clearly expressing a situation that is in contrast to the other ancient Near East accounts and in line with what we see from the evidence in the natural universe today. I do thank you for listening, and I appreciate that, and hope you do read the book, and may God bless you.